Hey, welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that is perfectly balanced as all things should be. I'm your host, Max Mosier, here on a beautiful Wednesday evening. We're grateful you're here, wherever you're listening, however you're listening to us. Thanks for making us part of your podcast experience. I'm here today with my other co-host of the six Infinity Bros we have, Infinity Bro Mark. Mark, how you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic. I'm so happy we're almost to the weekend.
How have you felt with this transition with your viewing experience of having a show of this caliber, or at least potential caliber, rather, be midweek?
It really just doesn't disrupt, or hasn't disrupted my schedule. I'm actually kind of in favor of the midweek drop because if I don't happen to catch it, because there's weekend plans going on, it's not 3 days later I'm watching it. I'll probably get to it Thursday or Friday if I, had something pop up. So I'm actually a fan of it.
Yeah, and like for us recording, next week we're going to start shifting to Thursdays. So if you're a listener and you're really excited, you like getting your podcast Wednesday night or Thursday morning, just know we're probably not going to get it till Thursday or Friday moving forward because we want to include Isaac and Zane and a couple other of the bros in the dialogue. And I think I'm with you, Mark. I'm really interested to see how Disney can continue to do this because, it's just an interesting choice. But it brings me back to the 90s where it felt like some of the best television happened like Tuesday to Thursday, right?
I mean, think about it. You have to go to the 90s. There was a moment in time, people, where on one night was Community, 30 Rock, Parks and Rec, and The Office, all in one night.
Right. That is just the NBC in the 2000s, right?
Can you imagine 2 hours of that being brand new?
Yeah, I think the midweek is a bold choice. I'm actually going to put a link in the show notes to this, but Dark Horizons was reporting that Disney has opted to launch their series on a Wednesday moving forward with pretty much all of the series. So, for instance, July 7th, Monsters at Work will premiere on that Wednesday. July 16th, Turner and Hooch. July 21st, Behind the Attraction. July 28th, Chippendale Park Life. Turning the Tables with Robin Roberts, The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse. August 4th, Short Circuit, and August 18th, Growing Up Animal. I mean, none of those shows intrigue me. Where this gets intriguing from a Marvel Cinematic Universe perspective, though, Mark, is Wednesday you're getting your new episode of Loki, for example, and then Friday you're headed to the theaters to watch Black Widow, which will be on July 8th or 9th. Am I correct on that?
Or you can purchase Black Widow for $30.
That's a good point. You're gonna buy, right? You're not gonna go to the theater because you're way far away from a theater.
Well, I could either drive 40 minutes, sit in a stadium seating, drive an hour to sit in loungers, or pay $30 just to watch it at home on my big screen TV.
It's almost like doing it at home is easier and better than going to the theater.
Well, especially someone like where I live now, where I live rurally, where, folks, I'm not Jarrett rural, but, the closest Walmart's like 35 minutes away.
Right. For those that are new to our show, Jarrett lives in Hodunk, Montana. That's not a real city. That's just a made-up name. But he literally can't get to a theater within 90 minutes, so that's why we make fun of him. Mark, we have an iTunes review that we need to talk about today. Our audience, you can leave us iTunes reviews for a chance to win an exclusive Infinity Gauntlet. If you leave us a review, we will put you into a drawing. When we get to 100 reviews on either iTunes or Podchaser, we will enter your name into that drawing. And this one comes from Mr. Hambino. Okay, hanging me out to dry there. Very good. Thank you, Mark. Mr. Hambino says...
You said Mr. Hambino like you were just going to read what they said, what you want me to comment on their name?
Oh, forgive me for having a rhythm. Forgive me for having a rhythm that is inviting you into the conversation.
Yeah. A little behind the curtain here, folks. There's been times where I've interrupted after he says something, and he's like, I need to say this, so then we can get this going. So, it's hit and miss with Max sometimes, everybody. He's unpredictable. He's like a wild card.
There's also been times, Mark, where you have just blatantly either interrupted me or left me hanging to dry and then played the whole, well, I didn't know card.
Well, that's very fair. But with these reviews, I want to give these people who gave their time to review our podcast their
Fine.
spotlight.
All right, I'll do it. Can I do it?
I'll make comments.
Can you not
after
interrupt me so I can do it?
Oh, my bad.
Mr. Hambino leaves a 5-star review from
that's
Apple
hilarious.
Podcasts. Thank you, Mark.
Is that what you wanted, Max?
Mr. Hambino, 5-star iTunes review. The title reads, "A haiku in review for you. Balanced, this pod is one of the best in the biz. Curse you, Ralph Boner," in all caps. I give this one a chef's kiss, 6 out of 6. If I were to rate these reviews, this might be one of the best iTunes reviews we've ever gotten, Mark.
Is it a true haiku?
It is actually. It is framed like a true haiku.
Nice.
Yeah, it's nice. You could if you're on iTunes, you can scroll down and see it. It's brilliant. Curse you, Ralph Boners, in all caps. Mark, everybody who's listened previously who is not new knows that I absolutely despise WandaVision. It feels like the longer away from it, the lower my rating gets. Has your rating changed since that time?
I've yet to rewatch it, and I believe a handful of episodes ago I said I wouldn't re-rate it until I rewatched it.
I think you said that last episode, now that I think about it.
No, it was a while ago.
Oh, it was? Okay, I'm sorry. We referenced it last week.
Yeah, I think it was when Falcon and Winter Soldier were still going on.
Right.
So, and after watching today's episode of Loki, I'm thinking, I think when Loki's all done, I'll rewatch it all together, all in one. See if there's a big connection somewhere.
Maybe. Did you see the new Hyundai commercial that was released today that incorporates all 3 of those shows?
I did not.
Yeah, it's really sweet. So if you follow me on Instagram at MaxMoser73, I put it on my story. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to see it. I don't usually get excited about commercials, but what was really exciting about the commercial, Mark, was that Captain America's wings were in the daylight, and they're way more blue, red, white, and blue than I thought. Like, they pop way more than when they did in that final act of that final episode of season 1.
When it was dark, yeah.
Yeah, it pops, and the white is way brighter. It's just a good look.
It probably is. You're right.
Yeah, it looked really good. I actually had to share it, and I was just like, this is amazing. So
I wish I followed you on Instagram. I could just see it.
Yeah, you could. You could literally just pop up now and see it. But for those that don't follow me on Instagram and don't wish to, I'll put a link in the show notes. It's a 30-second commercial, right? It's a car commercial. But
3.5 out of 6 follow, in my opinion.
Okay.
See, he wants the banter, then gets it. Now he's mad.
No, I appreciate the banter. The issue was that was kind of just like that was a jab I wasn't expecting. It was an unguarded jab.
Unguarded.
Yeah.
You're always unguarded. Oh, look, everything is popping because it's,
it looks good
in the sun.
It's a good looking outfit. I like it.
Look at that.
It's better in the sun. I'm looking forward to when movies come out and he's in a brighter scene and not in the dark. But this may be your first time listening to us, and we may have referenced our rating system and how we rate things on this show. So before we dive into this review of how we're going to talk about Loki episode 2, we want to make sure that you're familiar with our rating system. So we're going to go ahead and put that bumper right here.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an infinity step.
And we're going to start with our non-spoiler reviews real quick. So if you're somebody that's just interested in hearing what other people think, we're going to give broad strokes non-spoiler reviews. We will have a spoiler warning bumper. We will not share any intimate details of this episode until you hear that bumper. So, Mark, we're going to start with you. What is your rating on a scale of 1 to 6 of Loki episode 2?
Episode 2, just rating it off the back, 4.75. I think it might be lower if it wasn't a Marvel, entity or IP right now. Confirmed, the writers are clearly Calvinists. Very much confirmed. I could 100% point out probably all the writers attached to this are Calvinist Christians. I'm going to beat that down this whole season. Can't wait.
Yeah, you can definitely tell the writer of Rick and Morty is involved in this show.
And this is just my personal feeling, but I remember I gave Isaac and some of the other, I forget the other Infinity Bros who aligned themselves with Isaac on this one. But this episode very much felt like the Mandalorian episode where there's the frog person, the ice spiders, and it just felt like it really there was no purpose to the episode. But I mean, when you rewatch, you're like, oh, okay, this is where stuff, little seeds that, planted more stories in the end. And that's how I felt. I felt like there was a lot of like procedural and then doing some research. There was a fight montage in the beginning. And then all of a sudden Loki figures it out. And then then the huge reveal at the end. Like that's how I felt about this episode.
And we will talk about the review in our spoiler section. So for those that have not listened yet and are eager to hear our thoughts before that, we can dive into that. I'm going to give this a 3.75 out of 6. I'm going to echo a lot of the stuff you're saying. I would disagree on the Calvinism part. I think it's just a way of thinking about life that is just not even close to the way I think about things.
It's because you're not a Calvinist.
I'm not. I firmly think that this is one of the weaker episodes of so far Disney Plus. Until the very end, I agree. The last, I'd say, 5 minutes is pretty strong. But I'm going to talk about why I think it's strong a little later. I have some personal spoiler thoughts. I think they're okie-doking us, and I'm going to talk about that.
What was the runtime of this? Was it 50 minutes again?
53 minutes. Mark, this is going to sound wild, but this episode ran a little long. It ran a little long.
It was too long for Max. It was so long. There was so much Calvinism and, searching for stuff and drinks and salads and scrambled eggs, and Max couldn't handle it.
I love it. No, if you've never listened to our show before, one of the things I was always chastising WandaVision for was the low length of those episodes. It ran long in the sense of the storytelling. I don't think the episode was long. I think 53 minutes is a perfect sweet spot for these shows.
Agreed. I would agree.
I simply think that this just had a lot of dull moments in it from the sense of there was a lot of dialogue. Now, I concede that many of these dialogues are probably going to come back down the line as foreshadowing, important character development, critical moments that we heard something we didn't realize we were hearing. And I trust these writers. They're, again, as we referenced earlier, they're Rick and Morty writers. These guys are not idiots. They are very, very intelligent, and they know what they're doing. So Mark, I think the parallel you made with the Mandalorian episode with the ice spiders is a perfect example. There were some fun things that happened in this that I like. There were some cool moments that I enjoyed, but it was a yawner in some senses. But I think it was building the next 4 episodes and giving us the framework and rules to run by. And honestly, Mark, I think there's some issues, between the rules in this series and Endgame. And these writers had to change some of their rules on how they did things with time travel. And it's just fascinating to me how that works. So,
well, I mean, they mentioned different versions of time travel in the first episode.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think...
Because I'm sure they don't necessarily follow the same rules.
No, they're not. There's loopholes in both. And so basically Marvel is saying, and the writers have actually come out and said this, Marvel is saying these are the official time travel rules because this is the Time Variance Authority. This is the group that manages that. So
yep.
It's a tick-tick thing. Forgive me if you consider that a spoiler and we're sharing that. For me, that creates some inconsistencies, and part of the draw of Marvel is that it's just this long form of storytelling. I also think, too, that this show is really thinking that Tom Hiddleston and Loki are significantly more valuable and able to carry a show more than they do. I think Loki's a fun character, but last week I said it, I loved him opposite of Owen Wilson, and I would echo it again. Owen Wilson still, to me, at this point, is outshining Tom Hiddleston. Everyone else around Tom Hiddleston's doing a great job. He's not doing his best work as Loki yet, and I hope that's going to change, but... He did nothing of particular excellence in this episode. It felt like he was just there doing the thing. That's all.
Just kind of to go off what you're saying, and some more thoughts I have is for it being 6 episodes, the first 2 just felt like there was too much planting of seeds to grow the story, where it's like maybe you should have had this 8 episodes. So like these 2 episodes can be justified down the road.
And I'm not willing to give them the benefit of the doubt based on how WandaVision went.
Well, it's a different group of people, but sure.
It is, but I think Marvel, through all 3 series, we are learning that Marvel really has to clean up how they do television. And I think Kevin Feige has the long scope right, in the sense of he has the understanding that we can tell great stories and have good mediums and really leverage some of these lesser known actors and characters in their specific roles. However, I think they need more writers like the Rick and Morty writers. They need more of these people who show run in big shows. For instance, for me, I love This Is Us on NBC. I'd love to see some of those creators come into this. I'd love to see Elizabeth Merriweather from New Girl come into this. I'd love to see some of the writers from the famous dramas and other major shows come into these shows and write for them. I think they really could do some great things. So I'm not saying that this is like ruining the series. I actually had a really good time, but I was by no means blown away by this episode. And I was just like, oh, that was an episode of the Marvel show, which that is what Marvel has going for it. It creates a lot of great content. This just was not its best thing. However, I concede it could be setting up something much greater. So we'll see. Share your thoughts with us if you've read and listened at theinfinitybros.com, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also leave us a review or shoot us an email at theinfinitybrospodcast@gmail.com. We're going to go ahead and dive into spoilers right now, so we want to make sure that you are getting away if you haven't watched yet. Go watch Loki. Go watch it on Disney+. Come on back afterwards and come hear our thoughts. So this is your official spoiler warning.
This is
Prepare yourself.
an Infinity Bros
Prepare yourself.
spoiler warning.
All right, Mark, let's talk about the big reveal at the end, which I think is kind of the biggest part of this. We finally get to see Sophia DeMartino's character, who I am calling the antagonist. I am not calling her Lady Loki for personal reasons. I'll talk about that in a bit. But I wanted to hear your thoughts that you had articulated in your non-spoiler review, how you had enjoyed her showing up at the end. You felt like her big moment at the end, the crescendo of the start of her plan. Obviously, it's not her full plan yet. Was really strong and thought-provoking. What did you think of her showing up in this episode?
Well, I knew she had the actress playing this character had to show up eventually, given the first episode where like, oh, it's Loki who's the bad guy. It's like, well, I highly doubt it's actually going to be Loki. It's going to be this person that they have on IMDb as Lady Loki, who I'm sure will reveal is, the female version of Loki that has a different name. And I think there's another dude that's going to be in this that's probably going to be an older version of Loki with a different name. And there's calling back to the Oklahoma scene at the end of the last episode. I think there's somewhere down the timeline of Marvel stuff, Oklahoma was the home of Asgard, if I'm getting stuff correct.
It was. You are correct.
So, there's stuff like that. That's where it's like, hey, they're doing a really good job planting these seeds where I feel like this time it's on purpose compared to WandaVision, where it was like, those writers like, oh, that's a weird coincidence. We didn't know that was a thing. But no, I liked the reveal. I liked that they gave her like a little set of like his crown of horns or whatever. I thought that was pretty interesting. I like how her power is she can, hop from person to person, even when she's in a different person, like, controlling their body. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was one of the cooler parts of this episode, right? Seeing her do her thing at the beginning and the end of this episode with that power.
Yep, and I'm assuming because the one-time variance officer, whatever they call themselves again.
B-15 was the officer she took over at the end.
She must be able to read their minds.
Right.
Or, read their, pretty much download their memories and stuff like that to, like, know certain things.
Yeah, there's some transaction of thoughts there, right? Hunter C20 is the name of the actress. The Hunter C20 was the name of the fighter or member of the TVA at the beginting of the episode that was taken from her.
That's what's, yep. And then my other thought.
Yeah, I'm going to start us off real quick, Mark, and just start. I'm going to get deep in the weeds with you. I think this is the Enchantress. I don't think this is Lady Loki at all. I think this is Sylvie or Amora. I would probably lean more towards a Sylvie Lushton, which is the second Enchantress, who's been revealed a little later. I got a couple thoughts behind this and the reason I think it. For one, her blonde hair is a clear giveaway. Loki does not have blonde hair in the comics. And a lot of people are just assuming it's Lady Loki based off these first episode and a half of 2 episodes. But essentially up to that point. there was the gender fluidity reveal, which I think Marvel intentionally did for Pride Month, but I also think they did it to throw people off the scent very early. I gotta
stop you for a second. When you said Enchantress, my mind went to DC and I was like, wait, can they do that?
Yeah, right.
And then I wait, whoa. There's an
Time out. Whoa. Excuse me? Well, Mark, I don't know if you know this, but there are multiverses. You can do things in the multiverse.
Yeah, but you can't cross over. And then
that's where we draw the line with multiverses.
Hang on,
okay, I'm so sorry.
Before I could finish that, I was like, wait, Mark, you own the comic where it is DC and Marvel crossover. So
I love possible. It. You have been the major storyteller in regards to anybody can go anywhere with the multiverse.
Drop if they at this point in the stage of MCU bring over some DC characters. Like what deal happened that we didn't know about? Okay, go on with your interest stuff because I was reading some stuff online about this and I'm excited that you brought it up.
I really think this is the Enchantress, people, and not only do I think
get her name. She didn't give us her name, so as an audience, we're supposed to just assume, that's the Lady Loki. That's the red herring. And I agree. Yeah, go on.
A couple other things was Loki said, "You're Loki." She said, "Don't call me that." She said, "I assume I'm a better version of you," which Enchantress would think, in my opinion, as she's also a sorcerer and she also creates mischief and chaos. She tries to seduce Thor. I wonder if we're going to see her in Thor: Love and Thunder. There's a connection there. I think Loki talks about it at the beginning of the episode. He goes, "These are specific enchantments." I think the green lights, obviously, she has the same color scheme as Loki, so it's a very easy thing to slip in front of an audience. I really think that a majority of the audience is going to think that this is Lady Loki, which is part of the reason they did it, but I don't think they want DiMartino to upstage Hiddleston. I think they want Hiddleston to stay as the main Loki. I think if they're going to replace Hiddleston as Loki, it's going to be as a kid. It's going to be kid Loki, because then you can reinvest in that character for a very long time. And there's different things, right? And Lady Loki came in the comics because he took over Sif's body. That wasn't even a blonde character. It was a brown-haired character. And yes, it sounds ticky-tack when I say it like that. And yes, the horns were very similar, as you said, to Loki's garb and what he usually wears. But the Enchantress, if you look at her pictures as well, it's not far off to what that could be. I'm not even convinced that the Enchantress is working by herself. I think she could be working with somebody else. But the biggest reason I think that it's the Enchantress, Mark, is because she's a member of the Masters of Evil, which is clearly what they're setting up right now. It is clear and obvious the Masters of Evil are coming with Kang, with
the Analyst,
Zemo, with if I were to include the Enchantress, there are just specific characters that have already been foreshadowed and foretold are coming, and she's a member of that group. So if we look at how Marvel is planning things out in the future, and to give a big antagonistic group a Avengers Sinister Six, which for those that know Spider-Man well, that's the Masters of Evil. And I think there has to be a bigger villain for Thor and these characters to go up against, because I think Loki is going to kind of stay in his own. I think this is going to be a 5-6 season show, Mark.
Oh, very much could, because you could play all around with this and do all sorts of things, and it really wouldn't affect the whole timeline as a whole. That's why this show is perfect.
They've teased other characters that are related to her. Lorelei was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I just think this is the Enchantress. I'd be willing to put a small fortune on it. This is kind of, I'm going to die on this hill. This is the hill I'm dying on the next month.
This is your Mephisto for this season?
Is my Mephisto for this season. I think it's clear and obvious, and I think a lot of people are going to be bamboozled by it, because I've heard a ton of major people say it's Lady Loki, and I'm like, there's no way. It's probably Sylvie Lushton, because Amora is a little bit of a older and bigger character, and maybe there's two. Maybe there's two in this universe, right? That's the other thing they could do. It's kind of Marvel's rules to make it. I'm not clear personally on how Sylvie or Amora could execute this at the level that this whole plan of sending all these reset bombs to these specific timelines, which we'll talk about those.
Well, all of those would have to be specific and calculated too. So I just don't think it could be one person doing all this. That's why
I agree. I think she's working with
to the analyst that Raven Slayer has talked about, which it has to be King. You brought up Nightmare. What if you got the Nightmare, Kang, this person, Enchantress, all working together.
It'd be sweet if it was Kang. It really would be cool. I don't think it's Kang because I really think they're saving Kang for Ant-Man. I think Kang is going to be one of these Thanos level villains. You've got to make Ant-Man relevant, right? Ant-Man is one of the weaker properties right now. So you got to build some serious hype around that.
Marvel, whatever.
What'd you say?
It was nothing. You're right.
No, I love Ant-Man. I'm all in on that movie. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying
what's the third movie called again? Ant-Man?
Quantumania.
Okay. And what's the second Captain Marvel movie called?
The Marvels.
Okay.
Oh, you're taking shots at Captain Marvel.
Well, it's pretty easy when it's low-hanging fruit. Like
whatever, dog. Captain Marvel.
Well, when they call it the Ant-Mans, then, you can come talk to me.
Well, it's the Ant-Men, Mark. Come on, it's English. You speak that language. Come on, seriously, dude. Get it together.
That's fair.
So that is the hill I'm going to die on. That's just who I think it is. So I'm going to be referring to this character as the antagonist because we have not heard her name. You're going to hear other podcasts and show call her Lady Loki, and that's fine. If Mark, you want to call her that is okay. I will know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, that's what they have the actress name in IMDb. It's Lady Loki.
Whatever. I don't trust that.
That's the whole point. That's what I'm getting at. Like, that's why it's okay to call this until it's revealed because
I'm going to call her
just
the
like
Enchantress.
Quicksilver was called, like when Ralph Boner was Quicksilver for the longest time, and then became Ralph Boner. So
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for bringing that up.
Well,
let's talk about this episode in detail. Mark, any thoughts on that character? Agree, disagree? Are you leaning more Lady Loki? Where are you sitting on that character right now?
Man, I don't know. Because of how this series is being set up with time travel, different variants, really anything is possible.
Absolutely.
Like, it's more possible than WandaVision, in my opinion, because in the beginning, where Mobius was showing different variations of Loki, indicating like, hey, you all kind of have similar powers and similar looks, and then you see like this green monster looking Loki, like this sporty looking Loki. So it's like anything's possible.
Right.
So, and I guess I would go where I, side more with you too, is Enchantress being more real, because I don't think to like throw off the scent of the TVA, like that's why I think they might have like whoever's like the leader of this group tried to find someone that could mimic themselves as Loki, because I think they need Loki for part of their plan, and Loki doesn't know that yet.
really think this is going to end like Tenet for Loki. I really think that at the end of this, we're going to find out Loki's been in charge of all this, and this is Loki's ascension to being a true hero. And I think the Time Variance Authority, we're going to find out those three, as Loki called them, lizard timekeepers. I think they're not there. I think currently there could be corruption there. So either Loki is working adamantly to take that down, or he's working to build himself into that role and make the timeline, air quotes, correct. I think it's more connected with Loki than anything, and that's why the show is called Loki, personally.
You brought it up, but while watching this, my beautiful wife, Kelly, also mentioned that she thinks, and I agree with her and I agree with you, that the timekeepers aren't currently in control, and it's someone else or some people who are currently in control of it right now.
Yeah, and I don't know who that is. I don't know if it's Renslayer. I don't know if it's Kang. I don't know if it is three lizard men. I don't know if it's a variant of Loki. I don't know if it's just, it could be anything. It could be Miss Minutes. I mean, right? It could be,
Yeah.
and that's why they don't want a robot to come in, because it is being run by an artificial intelligence. Maybe it is Ultron, right? Maybe Ultron's running all this, and he's trying to prevent himself from stopping it.
Is that someone's crazy conspiracy that it's Ultron?
No, I've never heard that. I'm just spitballing.
Now we've just put it out into ether.
Well, Mark, there you go. That's yours. You can take that. I'll take the Enchantress, because you're going to put more legs on that than I will.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine?
I can't. If that came true, I can't. I can't
and
physically
not like
imagine.
an MCU, not like the Age of Ultron, like a more menacing, powerful Ultron.
A real Ultron, not a... Yeah, bring
one
James
that
Spader back, because James Spader's great.
Correct.
But make it look better. Don't give the robot moving mouth.
Don't make it a weekend at Ultron. Make it a time variant killer of the sacred timeline Ultron.
What do you like better, Age of Ultron or Captain Marvel?
Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I like it. I like Captain Marvel better.
Well,
Age of Ultron is the movie where all the Avengers become stand-up comedians, and Scarlet Witch flips on a dime. Her personality completely flips, and she loses her accent in the process. So,
well, I mean, she's trained to be able to use whatever accent she needs.
Whatever, dog. What?
That's the Black Widow. So,
So what's
read a book.
You read a book. Mark, what do you think about jet skis? Because that's a big bit here for Owen Wilson. Like, are you into jet skis as much as Owen Wilson's character?
Where he's on a jet ski.
100%. If we don't get a scene where he's on a jet ski, we have to riot, right? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, it's jet skis. For those that don't know, I live in an area that is on a lake, and jet skis are a pretty big part of our life here. And so a lot of people in my area own jet skis, and I got to tell you, Mark, I share the sentiment with with him on this. Mobius is jet skis are amazing. They're the perfect water toy, and yeah, I agree with the sentiment across the board. For it to come out in 1990, that's a pretty remarkable toy, and I'm looking forward to seeing Owen Wilson on a jet ski.
I hope they make it happen. I hope they go to some apocalyptic thing where it doesn't change the timeline so he can ride his jet ski. I
do too. Did you like Miss Minutes coming back and teaching more rules about time travel for Loki?
Yes, I did enjoy that. I just going back when we were talking about Tara Strong's the voice actress for this, and I'm thinking, I don't think I said in the podcast, but I was like, you don't hire an actress like that who's prominent and probably comes with a higher price tag to not use her more. So when he said that Miss Minutes might be the leader, it's it's possible because, she seems to be a sentient type of being that can be both in the computer, on the TV, and also just a hologram on your desk. So,
it'd be kind of cool. That would be a sweet turn if Miss Minutes was the antagonist of all of this. And, the Enchantress or Lady Loki are working with Loki to stop this. Like, what if the whole thing is, because she says at the end, right, this antagonist says, it's not about you. She doesn't necessarily say it's about the Time Variance Authority either, right? Like, I think it's whoever is controlling the TVA, which we're obviously going to find that out at the end of the season. That's the huge draw. The Miss Minutes thing was interesting. What I thought was super interesting from that, Mark, was the Nexus event discussion and how if it gets above the red line, they can't change that timeline. So, again, my mind goes right back to WandaVision, where in that commercial she's a Nexus being. So is this crescendoing from your opinion of, because last week when we spoke, my belief was we're going to see an event where she creates something and the Avengers have to stop it. And then I said after that, and I still kind of hold this, that after that event occurs, it's going to affect everything and that's going to involve everybody. And that's going to be the big overall MCU story arc. Do you think that's more or less of a tangible thing to think, or
anything's possible, Max?
Oh gosh, but I'm trying to see where this goes, and it's like, I tell you what, I love how I have no idea where any of this is going right now. I really appreciate that.
We're all jumping over this episode, but really it's the ending part that kind of is there really the throwing all these seeds on fresh soil type of thing. Because you shared me a TikTok where someone pointed out all the different locations,
which I have all those written down, and I'll talk about those later. Or we can talk about them now if you like. Would you like to talk about them?
I'll just go like this, because just kind of talk about you're talking about the future of the MCU. What if all those we don't know the dates of where these were affected?
We do know the dates.
We do.
The dates were on there. Yes, I have the dates as well.
Was it all past stuff or all present, future stuff?
Everything. It's all over the board. I have the dates in front of me let me put it this way. I have the dates of the main places that we would care about.
All right, well, give them to me right now.
All right, here we go.
So that I can articulate more.
I'm going to say the Enchantress, but you could be saying Lady Loki. And forgive us, we're all over the place. Mark talked about it, but that's how we review these shows. If you hate it, then go listen to, I don't know, what podcast would you recommend they listen to?
Whatever Robert Smartnick is currently recording.
Yeah, Robert Smartnick. I want you to just look up Robert Smartnick and then delete your phone. Okay? So antagonist, so they send their reset bombs to different timelines She says, this isn't about you. And she sends them to these locations: Vietnam in 1522, Vormir in 2301, Thornton, USA in 5051, Cookville, USA in 1559, Asgard in 2004. This would have been a couple years before Thor, the first Thor movie. Rome in 1390, Sakaar, which is where Thor Ragnarok happened, where Hulk and Thor fought. That would have been in 1984. Ego, the living planet, on 1382. Titan, where Thanos is from, and I would assume that the Eternals will have some reference to that, in 1982. New York City, 1947. Interesting fact about 1947, Mark, that was the year the smallpox event occurred in the United States. Tokyo in 1984. Hala, which is the home of the Kree, in the year 51, and Xandar in the year 1001. So if you go back, Mark, you can see the times next to them on the left.
I guess those dates give me nothing, because I was thinking, like, my thought would have been, or maybe they're still all ties, but I feel like if whose ever plan is either to disrupt and make multiple timelines, that's clearly what's happening. Or if their plan is, hey, here's enough stuff to keep all the TVAs, to get them out.
Yes.
For all these officers out of the TVA, so we can go into the TVA and figure out, or it's like, we got a couple things. Either they're figuring out who's really in control to take back control, or help out whoever needs to be in control, take over the TVA, or create more damage. And their whole goal is truly just to create different timelines.
I think it's both. I think the antagonist's intent was to get them out of the building. I think down the line, we're going to have consequences to these actions.
Or my thought, like at the end of the show where you see all these different timelines going off, I think one of those dates that's going to be affected, and I'm sure we didn't see it, Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man coming out in December, is going to be directly affected, because if they're bringing different characters from different timelines, for that to screw and mess with stuff, I think an event like this would happen. And to play more into Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, clearly some of these timelines have to continue.
Yeah.
And become reality, or, permanent, whatever.
Yeah, we just don't have enough information right now, right? To predict.
Well, we can just be speculative at this point. But
yeah, it's speculation.
That's the fun of it.
Yes, but I'm saying I don't think we can make a clear story, objective framework of where it's going. I think you could in 2 episodes, but not right now.
Can you imagine if they dropped all this right away and they just had no content to talk about, crazy, speculative, we
would have just glanced over this episode, right? We would have just literally talked about the end of this episode.
Episode 2 was all right, blah, blah, blah.
That's exactly what would have happened.
It came back in episode 5, some of the lines, but that was about it. That's what it would be like.
I think Loki's motivations are super interesting, because I think we're watching an internal battle here with this character, Mark, as he is deciding what his future is, because he essentially got the ultimate cheat code. He got to see what his life was going to be, and now he gets to respond to that. And obviously we see it at the beginning with the tent scene where he stalls and basically ruins that attempt to find that Loki, air quotes, and he realizes it comes back to bite him. But he basically shares at the end with this antagonist that he wants to take over the TVA, and the antagonist doesn't even blink to that, Mark, which I found super fascinating into the retrospect of what the overall plan is. But through 2 episodes where I feel Hiddleston's acting hasn't been great, I really feel like the arc of this character is really growing, and I appreciate that from the writers. I appreciate the journey they're trying to take him on. I think Hiddleston could give us more. I don't think he's doing a great job acting. I'll put it that way. He's not bad, but certainly he has not been the centerpiece yet.
Didn't he say he thought the best episodes were, what was it, 4 and 5 or something like that?
I'm sure he did, because these first couple of episodes, he is doing barely anything but sitting and being told what to do.
Well, and I think that's, we'll know once all the episodes are out, of course, but maybe there's a reason why these two.
Well, here's, and I understand what you're saying. I'm not trying to be confrontational with you. I'm saying Anthony Mackie and Elizabeth Olsen and Sebastian Stan and Paul Bettany were just absolute ass kickers in both of their shows. Every episode, they were giving us all they had. It was clear and obvious that the 4 of them were all into the shows they were on. In particular, the actors in WandaVision. in what they had to do and how they had to basically go through multiple different comedic genres on top of displaying immense grief. And then Anthony Mackie essentially talking about current political racial reconciliation dialogue. I thought they all were great in their acting. I have not felt like Hiddleston has done any of that yet. I understand that the conversation is a time travel conversation, and the overall discussion, as you jokingly have said, is what is our purpose in life and what is our meaning? I guess for me, I'm just struggling personally with where is Hiddleston's moment where I'm going, that's it. For Elizabeth Olsen, it was that first episode when she was really, really crushing it in a black and white Nick at Night TV show, and it looked like she was that character. For Anthony Mackie, it was when he was fighting internally on whether he should become Captain America or not.
And we haven't hit that point yet, though, with Loki.
But there hasn't even been like a glimpse of anything through 2 episodes.
You got to remember, Max, we're with the 2012 Loki from the first Avengers.
Fair. That's a fair point. That's fair. That's a good point.
I would actually argue against that, because we got a scene when they're in the lunchroom, when Mobius, I think it's the jet ski scene as well, where he's talking about, like, he knows his purpose and he's perfectly content and happy, and his purpose is to work the TVA, and perfectly fine that the people who created him were 3 lizards, and Loki's like, no, screw that, that's all weird. And then Mobius, and Loki's so confused why he thinks that he's just, how he can be content doing that, or be content with that whole thought process. And Mobius is like, well, where were you created? And he's like, by the Frost Giants. And he's like, who raised you? Odin. And he's like, doesn't that sound out of context sound weird to you? So I think you got a little insight. You got the little bit where he's got to think broader than just, being content with what he's supposed to do, or not caring where you came from. I think that's where we came from.
That's a completely fair point. I'm speaking more to the acting. I see the character arc. I see that the writers here have a clear plan. I'm just saying, for an actor of Tom Hiddleston's ability, and for honestly a character that has been a fan favorite and has acted well, he just hasn't done a great job in the first 2 episodes. And I think he's honestly one of the more boring parts of the show right now.
Well, Max, sometimes you're wrong.
Thanks, Mark. I know people are probably going to disagree with that, and that's fine. Right now, I'm more interested in what's happening with the characters around him than him.
And maybe that's the point. Maybe that's what they want you to feel. So then, like, when these characters betray Loki or kill Loki, or Loki kills them, you actually, like, feel sad.
If the show's called Loki, I'd like to be a little more emotionally invested. That's all. Especially when they have 2012 Loki, which is still, even to that point in Thor and Avengers, he was still a character that you weren't necessarily hoping would die.
I think you're just really bitter because WandaVision just really hurt you. I think that's where this is all really stemming from.
I just love how it all
thought I was going to get what I wanted with
WandaVision.
Because it does with you. It literally, like, that.
It doesn't.
That set your tone for these next 2 series. And I feel like either I said to you on the podcast or offline sometime that you cannot let WandaVision affect the rest of your viewing of the MCU going forward.
No, it doesn't.
Well, I mean, sometimes it feels like it does.
That's not fair. For a couple reasons.
Max was hurt with the last 4 episodes of WandaVision, and now he's out for blood.
I'm more upset with the last episode of WandaVision than I am the last 4. The last one episode. The episode before, the 7th episode of WandaVision, was great. It was really the last one. No, I think Captain America and the Winter Soldier was dynamite. I think we made that very clear on this show, and I really, really liked it. And I really, really love...
You could have liked it more.
I loved it. I really gave it a really strong... I felt like 5 out of 6 was a really strong rating. It was not perfect by any stretch, but the reasons I had for that show not being a 6 were not because of acting and storytelling. There were some storytelling things that I don't really want to get into fully, is what I would say. That's all. With this show, I think I see this show being a multiple season show. I do not see WandaVision being a multiple season show. I maybe see Captain America and the Winter Soldier being multiple seasons. But Loki is really the first true of the three, in my opinion, TV show. So I am willing to wait. I just also, and in fairness to you, I also remember what happened with WandaVision. And so the whole time we were in WandaVision, we were saying out loud every episode, well, we'll see how this all pans out. And then when it didn't pan out, people freaked out when I got mad. And so I'm making it very clear to people that right now, I want to see Tom Hiddleston give me something really great. I want to see that main Loki moment. I want the best Loki moment to come from this series. This is his time to shine. He is not the backup guy anymore. And yes, there's different renditions of him. Yes, there probably will be female Lokis or something like that along those lines. But I want to see Tom Hiddleston take center stage. And in that dialogue with Mobius, I'm sorry, Mark, Mobius carried more of it than he should have. He should have. I really, really think Loki deserves as a character, and Tom Hiddleston, more importantly, as an actor, deserves to have a bigger moment. And so maybe it is a little bit writing, but I think Tom Hiddleston just hasn't shown up, in my opinion, yet. But even though I was hurt by WandaVision, I will give it 4 episodes because you are correct. This is 2012 Loki. So in theory, it could be days since he just lost in Avengers.
Yeah, going back to that though, just that thought made me think of the part of the episode where he's at his desk with what's the hologram, the Mrs. I'm blanking on it now.
Miss Minutes.
Miss Minutes, there you go. Thank you. Where it made me think like, wait, how many days has it been that now he has his own desk and he's going through training videos?
Right. Well, who knows? Who knows with them?
And Owen Wilson, or Mobius says in the first season, it's like, yeah, time, is different here. Which basically means time doesn't really exist in there. So yeah, it could have been a year. It could have been 2 days. Like, we don't know.
Did you like the scene where Mobius goes to meet Renslayer and his coaster's a hexagon shaped?
Yep.
Did you pick up on that?
Oh yeah.
I was cracking up at that.
That's what I'm saying. This show is nothing is a coincidence. There's with these writers.
Yeah, these guys are sharp. I agree.
They are not, doing things coincidentally.
If you are listening to our show and you do not watch Rick and Morty, I gotta tell you, Rick and Morty is literally some of the most intelligent storytelling and writing. It's so quick-witted and so layered. It's so stupid. That show has no business being as layered as it is. There are background things happening every episode that should not be as complex as that show makes it. And that's these writers. So I'm with you, Mark. I agree completely. Nothing's an accident. We get the Franklin D. Roosevelt blue pen, which is, to some people, a Fantastic Four reference to Reed Richards' son, but also has the Fantastic Four blue. It's also confirmed as well that Kang the Conqueror is a descendant of Reed Richards down the line. So that's just something, too, that people need to keep in mind. We get that dialogue with Renslayer and Mobius talking about whether they can trust Loki, whether the timekeepers are really doing what they're saying they're doing. Mark, I guess a question for you, since we're on this subject, is who do you think these timekeepers are? We've talked about it a little bit, but if you had to put a small wager on who they are right now, who would you say?
There are 3 lizard people.
Do you think they are these abstract higher beings right now, or do you think they're being placated as somebody else?
I see where you're going with this. Well, I want to comment on the Kang thing, or the office scene, where she talks about her analyst, or Mobius says the analyst or something like that.
No. She says she has an analyst offsite.
So it makes me think, an offsite too, which means not in the TVA. To me, it's like, is there so many analysts that of course Mobius wouldn't know this other analyst? Or is he questioning it because maybe he knows who it probably is and doesn't like that person? So that's why he brings it up. When he's searching you're looking at all the trophies that she has. But to answer your question, I wish we knew more about how old maybe Renslayer is or some of these other people, where it's is it all a fabrication? Like these 3 lizards aren't real and something else is actually control? Or are the 3 lizard like beings like legit, but it's actually Renslayer who is in control, or someone who she's working with is actually controlling all this? Or maybe she's the bad person and she's the one who wanted to screw up the sacred timeline. I don't know. Anything's possible with this time travel stuff. It's like,
I don't know if I think Renslayer is the bad guy today.
But she has to answer to somebody, or is controlling it.
Right. I think our realistic options here are the 3 people. The 3 lizard time beings do exist. That's option 1. Option 2 is Kang the Conqueror. Option 3 is Renslayer herself. And I think option 4 realistically could be some variant of Loki.
Or another Nexus being.
Correct. That is a very good guess. I don't know who that would be.
Who are Nexus beings? I don't know off the top of my head. Is Galactus
it would be a Nexus. It would be a Nexus being is how they refer to it.
I would still think that, if Kang's an analyst still, he could still be like, quote unquote,
that yes, I can subscribe to him being an analyst. Yes.
I imagine, I go back to, like, this is just a weird why I thought of this. Green Lantern, awful movie, but it ends with, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, but turning into the Yellow Lantern.
Sinestro.
There you go. Thank you. Sinestro turning into the Yellow Lantern. So do we get like a moment like that when maybe like Hank shows up in the last episode and like helps out the bros and or the people or whatever, and at the end, like the final credit scene is him being a basically Ant-Man 3 like type of setup. I just feel like with everything that's going on, we have to get a little glimpse. We don't need him to be a bad guy right now, but some setup to like, oh, this guy actually isn't a good guy.
I think Jonathan Majors is going to show up in some way as Kang. I think he's got to show up in some way this season. Do I think he's the big bad? No. No. I won't do that. I said that at the beginning of the episode. I'm not going to go down that again. I do like him as the analyst, though. I like that because, one, that puts him in a lesser role. If time does work different, he can be a younger role, and we can kind of get a glimpse of him getting excited about changing the timeline. Additionally, King the Conqueror is a much more layered villain than people realize. And that's why I think he will be such a hit to the major audience. And that is why I think he essentially is a perfect filler for a Thanos, who the reason people adored Thanos is the same reason they liked Darth Vader. He was a conflicted villain who had a point, but still was doing something wrong.
Max, hear me out. This just literally like shot into my brain. So hear me out. Maybe King has this idea that he knows he's all powerful or something like that, and he wants to destroy the best of the best from the multiverse, and his goal is to combine them all, and that's to bring back his great whatever grandfather and Reed Richards into the multiverse. He wants the X-Men, he wants different characters that we haven't seen before, all in one universe so he can fight them all. Maybe that's his goal. Like he's an arrogant person like that he's like, I'm so strong, but I want to fight the best of the best in one battle because I know I can do that. And
do some type of secret wars like they basically pitched at the beginning of episode 1 of Loki, right? I mean...
So that's where the kind of piggyback more on the Kang idea is, yes, I think if he actually shows up, we're not going to portray him as a bad guy up front. We might see him do some menacing things maybe, but he's not the main villain. And if he shows up, it's for like an episode or 2.
And that's how they did it with Thanos, right? Thanos showed up for 5 minutes in Guardians of the Galaxy. You knew who he was, and you got excited. And then you saw him again for a minute at the end of Avengers Ultron. And I think they got to do the same with Majors. Just do it in the TV version, right? Like, give him 1 episode to get to know him, and then send him off for an air quotes spinoff. I think that's a good approach to that character. They don't have to do it, but I do think Renslayer, again, is just too much of a connection to him. He's going to show up in some capacity.
Oh, yeah.
I think right now there's a mole in the TVA. I don't think it's anybody we've said. I think it could be an obscure character we don't know.
Yeah, or just some person named Parker.
Or Randy.
Yeah, or Randy. Or Joss, or I don't know.
Joss. Oh, gosh. Yeah.
And they just kill him right away.
What did you think of Loki learning about apocalypses being the main spot that these other Lokis or antagonists are living in? I thought that was a really clever way to manage time travel personally. This was for me like a really like how did these writers come up with this type of loophole? This is a really smart idea.
The more we talk about this episode, the more I give credit to this writing team, because this group of people, or a few, I don't know how many people are in the writing room, had to have created this rule and where people can hide that makes sense to the audience, but also gives it a uniqueness that you haven't really seen in any other type of time travel movies. So that's where I think they get, I think at the end of the day, these last 2 episodes are bolstered by the writing team.
Additionally, they had to work under the constraints of time traveling rules that were built for a movie and basically change it and go, no, this is canon, and not have people freak out. Nobody's freaked out about the time travel rules, but they're changing the time travel rules right now.
But like where I said early in the episode, it's like, I don't think you can say the time travel rules that Tony Stark created follow the same laws as the TVA.
Forgive me. When I say rules, I mean laws. That's a really good way to put it. So the Ancient One talked about it, right? She talked about this idea of creating branch universes that could destroy her sacred timeline. That is what she was talking about from a mystical perspective.
Correct.
These are the people who scientifically and from a future perspective preserve their timeline, a la Tenet. I keep going back to Tenet because that's the only movie I feel like that has really articulated how those kinds of rules work and work well in a very unique storytelling way. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think what really is impressive from this writing team, Mark, is that they did have to work under the constraints of what Endgame had established. Insert a character that is dead and cannot go back. You cannot send him back. He is now with your whatever empty space parallel universe you call this. I don't even know how to describe the TVA, right? But the other thing is you can't make the TVA OP, because if you make the TVA OP, you make it difficult down the line for the heroes of the MCU to fight them, because there's got to be some major fight and quarrel between everybody else in the TVA down the line.
We're led to believe that we're outside the timeline, right? And we're not like in a different dimension or whatever, or I guess technically it would be in a different dimension, but I forget where was it going with this, where that's why rules don't necessarily apply to like the Infinity Stones or your powers, because you get those powers in the specific universe or time that you're in with them. So that's where maybe like the what's that, the show coming out with the Armor Wars, maybe that's where this might get tied in later, coming back to TVA, where it's like, well, we can't use our powers here, but we can use these machines here.
These writers have a heck of this is the hardest task of all the 3 groups.
I can't wait for 30 years down the line. Let's say they've like, okay, we're done with the MCU as we know it, and to get the documentary of Kevin Feige spiderwebbing all of these shows.
There's no way this is done in 30 years.
Better.
I don't think Kevin Feige will be a part of it, but Disney can't let it die. They just put a theme park out.
I just don't think you could continue. Oh, that's just crazy. Max, that means we'd be 6 years old and they're still running the same. This is still all linear and still working together.
Dude, that's what Star Wars is doing.
Well, Star Wars
and this is more set up
like
in a way that can keep
things,
going versus Star Wars. You just revamp these characters.
Well, yeah.
You can't revamp the Star Wars characters.
But eventually, at some point, you're going to have to like end this timeline. Everything has an ending, Max. It's not like you can continue. Like, you can end it and just James Bond it and just start a new story.
For sure, but you know how comic books work. You just restart it.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, how we know it and how everything's tying together has to have an ending. And then when the ending happens, then you start something new.
And that will be when Kevin Feige leaves. When Kevin Feige leaves, that's what he's going to do. He's not going to leave strings hanging. He's going to tell the team, this is when I'm out, and this is how we're going to end it.
Yeah. We're going to do 10 phases, and then we're going to put a cherry on top.
That certainly isn't ending anytime soon. I'll tell you that.
And the ending's going to be Kevin Feige waking up in a cold sweat in 2004, and like that's how the MCU ends.
He's going to go 2004 in Asgard, and then all of a sudden, one of those
he
reset
goes to
bombs
his
is
book and starts
up.
writing down everything from his dream.
Yeah. I also liked the small thing. We talked about apocalypse moments and the great writing, but I liked that Loki saw zero variance energy, so it meant this had to happen. Again, he's just getting hit over the head with this really, really philosophically beating idea that like you have no control of your life. You are dictated. This is the path you have to choose. And then he gets this special, unique moment, right? We get the Pompeii scene and he practices that and it works. And obviously the salad scene. The salad scene was stupid. It was so dumb. It wasn't funny. It was dumb to me, at least. Did you enjoy it? You laughed.
Yeah. I thought it was funny.
I did not. It didn't. It was stupid. It was goofy. And
my question is, with all these like going back to time stuff, when are we not going to be on Earth? Future or past? Like everything's always been future, past on Earth. Like this are we going to be revealed like Earth's some like important timeline where all these different people and events happened? Like why aren't we like, hey, actually, this Loki's on Asgard in this universe or this time because there's a apocalyptic thing happening or some other planet. Like that's one thing I thought the last two episodes. It's like, are we just staying on Earth to save money here or what's going on?
Both and. I mean, it's probably a storytelling. It's easy to make the connections simpler on Earth, but also, you know, from a storytelling perspective, it gives a central location. Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. It's as they expand, it's going to be harder to stay privately.
Or what would have been really cool is the moment Titan basically exploded. That's where they went instead of Pompeii.
I actually think there's a chance they might go there, Mark.
Well, they brought it up, so
he saw Thanos.
Moments, so yeah.
He saw Thanos, he saw his mom, and he saw Coulson.
Yep.
So I think all three of them will be involved in some capacity. They go to Roxcart. We keep getting these Roxxon things. So like all these TV shows that didn't work out for the MCU, like, you know, Cloak and Dagger, The Runaways, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. worked out, air
Iron
quotes.
Man 2, Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 2.
What other ones didn't work out for you, bro?
I'm saying like these TV shows that they tried to connect that just didn't work out.
Well, was it in Cloak and Dagger? Wasn't Rox really like more of a thing in Cloak and Dagger? I don't remember. Zane would know. Too bad Zane.
Roxxon was the big thing in Cloak and Dagger. Like they were the big antagonist.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Because that was how their parents died.
Oh, that's right.
So, and in the comics, they're kind of against them. And also Roxxon is run by, I think, a centaur or a minotaur or something like that. Like, so it's like that connects directly with Thor.
Do you think we'll see anything Rox related in Spider-Man? Because that's where I feel like it's more prominent.
No, we gotta see, if we're doing Spider-Man, we gotta see Osborn. Oscorp, right? Like,
yeah, you're right.
It's got to be Oscorp. That's got to be the big antagonist in that. So we see Haven Hills in 2050. It's called a Class 10 apocalypse. And for reference, the Asgard apocalypse was called a Class 7. So apparently the lower the number is, the worse it is. And Hunter C20 is found, the hunter that was taken in the beginning. She keeps repeating, it's real, and she...
Who happens to be a somewhat famous actress. So I'm thinking that she is more of an important
role. Yeah, for sure. She's going to be involved down the line. What's her name?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I just know I've seen her in movies where she's been like the main player,
right,
in some movies. So
and she told the antagonist where the timekeepers are, which perplexed me because I'm like, I thought nobody knew. Like, am I being crazy, or is it just like Loki's and maybe it's just Loki, right? Like maybe Loki's the only one that doesn't know all this yet.
I mean, we really haven't been. Have we been told that no one knows where the timekeepers are?
Sasha Lane is the actress, by the way.
There you go. But maybe, you know, knowing where the timekeepers are is like sacred knowledge. So through manipulation, she obviously was able to give it up. So
we also see the antagonist enchant individuals. She enchants B-15's body. She casts magic throughout the stores, and then obviously we get the hunters going to the other room trying to console C20, and then we find out that Sophia DiMartino's character is sending all these reset bombs to the times and locations we talked about at the beginning. Mark, I got nothing on this. I have no idea where this is going, and I do love that. That excites me. When I have no clue where something goes, I love that.
Yeah, it's going to be... I'm perplexed, too. It's just like there's so many different ways you could go into the weeds with these... what's going on, especially with those dates. Like,
where did Loki go? That's the last question I have for you. What year in location?
Well, okay, we see all this happen. We see all the TVA people go out. I'm going to guess we're current timeline in TVA is where they're going. Because clearly she left that portal open for him to come through. So either they need him for some reason, or they need to show him something, which could be the same thing as, yeah. So I'd put my money right now on they're in the TVA. That's where they went.
You think because all these agents are in other places, they're going to go there and overtake something?
Well, that would kind of make sense. Like, why are you, like, unless your plan is really to just cause chaos, then
Maybe for a couple episodes it is to cause chaos at a higher goal. Maybe they're, I don't know. It could be that. So
sure.
yeah, I don't know. I didn't talk about this, but he offered a team up with her and she turned him down. And you get this kind of battle that, and again, I see why as an audience member you could watch this whole scene and go, oh, this is Lady Loki, because Loki's like, oh, I'm better than you. But for me, again, I go back to, these are the same kind of dialogues the Enchantress and Loki have in the comics. Same exact dialogues. And I really think, honestly, Mark, here's as I've thought about it more, here's what I think. I think this Enchantress, her Loki was really strong. He did do a lot of crazy stuff. In his specific timeline, he was the top dog. And I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see this Loki go to that timeline. Like, so we've seen commercials for Loki for president. I think she's from that timeline. And I think she got tired of him. She killed him. And now she's top dog. And she may even be taking a plan he had and finishing it for her own benefit.
And to go off that, too, I mean, also in the trailer, we see a crumbled New York and, like, Avengers Tower falling, and also a Loki on the throne of Asgard, so.
Yeah, we're going to see. I mean, I will say this. These next couple episodes are going to be bananas, probably.
Better be. Only 4 more episodes left.
This was a setup episode. I mean, this in the classic sense. This is a setup
We better have
episode.
to be wearing, like, 4 pairs of socks, because we're going to get those socks rocked off the next
Well,
4
and they
episodes.
got to do kind of what Captain America and the Winter Soldier did, where, you know, when the Dora Milaje showed up, you got to do something like that, where people get excited for something. In this kind of show, if you can connect to any time at any location, we've got to see some pretty obscure connections that we haven't seen before.
This is where, like, this is what they could do, and I would love it, because you only need maybe 10 minutes with these people. But literally anyone else playing, like, a different version of Tony Stark as Iron Man, a different person playing a different version of Captain America, that'd be so sweet to see.
I don't think we need another Captain America. We've seen that already, but I like.
But that's something to be neat, just like a different superhero
I get what
played
you're saying. Yeah, I understand the sentiment.
Actor, actress, just
or
someone that we've never seen. Like, hey, you know what? He goes to a timeline where the only things out there are the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. So, like, that's like that could be done. Where, like, everything has happened, just how we've seen the MCU, but only X-Men and the Fantastic Four exist.
I'm not getting caught up in the X-Men Fantastic Four thing again
but
after what happened with WandaVision. They can, but they won't.
They could do it. But
You're going to introduce that in a movie. You're not going to introduce that in a show.
But you can introduce a character. That's what I'm saying. You can tease the fans.
Fair. I think it's better to play with the Thor characters or the Avengers characters than those characters.
Sure.
That's just my opinion.
We're in a timeline, time travel, time variance type of show where, like, anything is possible, Max. Anything you want can happen.
Except for Marvel and DC going together. That cannot happen according to you.
That cannot happen right now in the current climate that we're in.
I love it. I love that anything can happen,
DC
asterisk, except for this, Mark Jones.
Except for this.
Well, those are our thoughts and review of Loki episode 2. You can check that out on Disney Plus. And again, props to the writers. We are enjoying the storytelling, but we did feel like there was more to be had in this episode. Maybe more action, maybe one additional twist, maybe some more character development from somebody like Renslayer. I think both of us would agree there as well. Mark, you want to plug anything this week? Anything you want to share with our audience before we get going?
No, nothing this week. Nothing I can really think
That's
of.
okay. No big deal.
Maybe we could do a little giveaways. You know, we'll make a TikTok or something. We'll
work on it.
I can think of a good question to ask all of the Infinity Bros universe.
If you've made it to this point of the podcast, you clearly care about us, or you are not close enough to your pause button or stop button to hear this. Either way, we'd love for you to leave a review for us. Go to iTunes or Podchaser, leave us a review. You enter for a chance to win an exclusive Infinity Gauntlet signed by the Infinity Bros. We will read your review on the air, and we will probably mock it, but we will. So make sure you do that. Additionally, you can check us out on theinfinitybros.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and you can see us on Discord. Click the link in our show notes. All of these are there. Just click the link tree. All of the links I'm talking about are on that link tree. So don't stress. We're throwing a lot at you. Just press that link. It'll take you where you need to go. Additionally, you could follow us on Twitch, where Infinity Bro Robbie, Infinity Bro Isaac and Zane, and Infinity Bro Jarrett are hanging out pretty much every day doing a ton of great stuff. So we'd love for you to check out our Twitch channel and subscribe to that. We love you guys. We hope you have a great rest of your week and enjoy your Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We will see you next week. And as always, we love you guys 3000. See ya. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.